In the last 2 episodes of this series, we've been looking at making an adjustment to the arm where we move the tip of the elbow forward, out, and down while moving the base of the palm back. The goal was to move the elbow forward of the plane of the ribs, as we ultimately want the arm to rest vertically straight in front of the plane of the ribs. Last episode I asked what effect this has on your back. If you recorded yourself while doing this procedure, you likely saw that when you made this adjustment, it made you sit a bit more upright in your chair. This is interesting as we gave no directions for the torso, and yet it seems this adjustment affects the torso positively. But really, this isn't that strange. Your body is all one connected thing. When we adjust our arms in this procedure, we are widening the upper back, and that will naturally have an effect on your back. So when we're sitting, if we want to be tall and upright, we need to take care that we are not narrowing our back by pulling our arms back. If you've been playing along with this procedure for adjusting the arms, you may have found that though you've gotten the elbow forward and the hand somewhat back, the arm is still not vertical. What most people will find is that their upper arm, near their shoulder, is still pulled back. So though the arm is straighter, it's still angled. Today we'll define another point on the arm called the upper arm. To find it, trace down your collarbone until you hit the point where the bone drops off. Backtrack from there a very small amount and then trace straight ahead down the front of the arm a couple inches. The exact point is on a bump on the bone called the greater tubercle. You should feel the bone there on the front of the arm itself, near the top. For our procedures today, you'll need a yardstick, or really any long straight stick will work. The first thing we can do is have you hold the stick between the thumb and fingers of one of your hands, with the palm facing up. You want to be holding the middle of the stick. Move the stick to your body so that it touches both of your upper arm spots. If you run into your sternum before you hit your upper arms, that's okay, stop there. There's actually a lot of information in this little procedure, so if you're going to play along, make sure you have a stick or pause the video and grab one. Try this out before finishing the video. The first thing we can take note of is how we brought the stick up to the upper arm or upper sternum. You likely had to move your elbow very far forward and out in order to do this. However, if you did not move your elbow forward and out, you likely hit your sternum before your arms, or hit them at the same time. If you excessively raised your elbow or shoulder to get the stick up, give yourself the direction to move them down in space when you bring the stick up. If you were stopped by your sternum, that's a sign that you are retracting your arms a lot. If you hit your sternum and arms at the same time, you're still retracting your arms, just not quite as much. When the ruler is against both upper arm spots, we want there to be a gap between the ruler and the sternum. But you don't want to pull your upper sternum back to accomplish that. Instead, move your lower ribs back and your upper arm spots forward, out, and down. Check to make sure you're not moving your arms in to move them forward. We want extension of the whole arm. We don't want extension gained in one area at the expense of shortening in another area. You can check this easily with a mirror. Make sure you know what you're doing when you're moving your arms forward. Forward, out, and down, not in. The last thing to consider is the height of the upper sternum compared to the upper arm spots. Are they at the same height, or is one higher? We of course remember that our directions for the upper arm generally were forward, out, and down. That is what we will apply to the upper arm spots that we've defined. So naturally, we want the upper sternum to be well above the upper arm spots. If you have the stick against your upper arm spots, you can give yourself the directions to lift the upper sternum while moving the upper arms forward, out, and down. If we think back to the quote we looked at from Alexander not long ago, we can remember he described the condition of a boy who stoops very much and combines a sinking above and below the clavicles with abnormal protrusion of the shoulder blades. We already well understand the protrusion of the shoulder blades. When you pull your shoulders back, you move the shoulder blades onto the back and cause them to protrude. But he also describes this sinking above and below the clavicles. If you watched the series about the torso, you know all about the sinking of the ribcage, and that naturally causes the upper end of the ribcage, which should be above the clavicles, to sink down. This shortens the muscles in the neck and causes a lot of problems like pain, for instance, in the neck, upper back, and arms. When you understand the geometry of this sinking, you can use directions to counter it. A simple tool like a yardstick can give you a definite way to make your adjustment clear. When you lift the upper sternum and move the upper arms down, you can lengthen the muscles in your upper torso and into the neck. You can combat this common postural problem in a straightforward way by understanding it and then applying a new mental model to change how you're using yourself. Now we can put the yardstick to the side and return to our procedure for adjusting the arm. Move the tip of the elbow forward, out, and down to bring it forward of the plane of the ribs. Point the tip of the elbow out, pull the base of the palm back, and move the upper arm spot forward, out, and down. Remember what you did to get your upper arms to touch the stick. Remember how far forward they had to go. While we can use objects like a yardstick to help us understand how we can make certain movements with parts of our body, ultimately we need to gain the ability to make those adjustments without the assistance of the stick. You won't have a yardstick in your day-to-day life to help you move your upper arms forward. You need to be able to give yourself the appropriate directions and be able to follow them so you can adjust your body for the better during any activity. The real value we get from these procedures is in the concepts and strategies that you learn from them, which can then be applied in daily activities. Experiment with applying what we've learned so far in your everyday life. If you have to carry a heavy object, can you direct your upper arm spots and the tips of your elbows forward, out, and down while you do it? Does that change how your torso and body generally are affected by carrying the weight? Experiment a little and then join me next episode, and we'll look at some more procedures we can do with a stick. So if you don't have a yardstick or a similar object, try and find one, as we'll be continuing to use them during this series.